Good morning or evening, depending on where you are. Hi, hi. Hey, Julia. How's it going? Looks like Cindy and Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Got Della coming on. Um, this morning it is a rainy, snowy, beautiful mix outside, but I feel like I wanted to stay in today. There's a little bit more to navigate to keep myself dry out there this morning. Hi, Della. Good to see you. And Cass and Kathy, welcome, welcome. Um, let's see. I don't recognize Cass's name, maybe if I saw her face, but just to let folks know that I think most of you know the drill. You're welcome to show your face. Hi, there you are. Great. If you want to, you don't have to, of course, but I'd love to see it. And I'm curious, since we have a small group here at this very moment, if anyone has been hearing any new sounds in the morning. Does anyone wake up like right around dawn and step outside at all? Anyone done that lately or in a while? Not so Julia says too cold. Yeah. Della, yeah. Have any of you been anyone who does, anyone been hearing any new sounds outside?
I think I hear a little more singing. And instead of half songs, they're doing more complete songs. And I still hear the hawk every morning.
Oh,
So yeah, more sound.
more sound. Yeah, I would agree. It was a couple weeks ago that I started hearing the Cardinals sing, just but it was like you're saying the half song. And then yesterday, it probably has been a little while since I was outside early, but yesterday I was up early and was standing out there right around dawn, and the cardinal was singing and singing and singing. Then it came up to my house and it was singing and singing and singing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I've been noticing, at least up here in New England, that there's been some more full-on songs, not just the partial songs. So that's interesting in California where you are, Della, that it's a similar kind of a thing. Yeah. Anyone else noticing that there's a bit more song lately in the mornings? Yeah, Jacqueline. Yeah. She's like, heck yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, same over here. It's really exciting. I mean, when we really start to listen more closely to the world, I think there's sort of like this, I don't know, I guess it's a misperception, I think, that the birds don't start singing or really returning until the spring. But those that are here, they do start to vocalize. They start to make their presence known in an audible way much, much earlier. I know for me, it usually starts right after the solstice. It's within a day or two of the solstice
Mm.
that I start to hear the first little sounds of bird song. And of course, there are some birds that sing all winter long, like anyone who's out in the West over there. Anyone, hands up. Do you all have the dipper around you, the American dipper?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So those of you who do, are you hearing the dipper singing this time of year?
yes,
Isn't it
yes.
amazing?
Oh, I love it. It's just so uplifting to hear them in the middle
Yeah,
of winter singing their heart out.
singing their heart out. It's like as if it were spring for them, and they just go and go and go. And yeah, I feel like it was one of my favorite sounds when I lived out there. Della, do you have the dipper where you are?
I have not seen a dipper.
Hmm.
So I just made a note to myself here to check out whether we have one locally, if anybody else is seeing one and where, but I have not seen one.
Yeah, Linda, do you want to, and then we'll get into meditation. This is just kind of fun to geek out for a minute here. Linda, do you want to share with folks where they're typically seen? Like what's a common habitat for the dipper?
Right along rivers. That's where I always see them, is right along rivers. Sometimes in the summer, I'll see them along the edges of the banks of lakes, but mostly along the rivers here. And that's where I saw one just 2 weeks ago, where he was bobbing and dipping along the edge of the Flathead River, which is our main river here. And then he just burst into song, and oh my God, made my day.
Made your
So
day. Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're virtually married to water. Like I've never seen one away from water. I've seen them in different types of water, but never away from water. I mean, they
yeah,
must get away from water for a minute if they're flying from like river to lake or something like that. But
yeah,
I've never seen them on the ground away from water.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Claudia said we have them up in the canyon near me. Yeah, on the river, but haven't seen one for a long time. Need to make a trip up the canyon. Yeah. Oh yeah, canyons are great places to see them. Oh, heck yeah. Well, with the beautiful idea of a dipper in our minds and hearts, I have one other meditation. I'm almost made it through the book I was reading last week, by Thomas More. It's called Meditations, actually. And I found another one that I thought would be great for our sit. And it's interesting because it's very aligned with some of what, like the thinking we were going on last week. Even though he has a lot of diverse thoughts and ideas in this book, I think this one's aligned with what we talked about last week. And I thought it could be nice to go a little bit deeper with what we were doing last time. So, you know what we'll do? Let's get ourselves first situated. Then I'll read the meditation and then we can kind of go from there. So find yourself a cozy, comfy place to sit as you all are, and let your feet land on the earth if they can. And if not, it's okay. Just imagine maybe your tush connected to the seat that it's on, and then the seat connected to the floor, and the floor connected to the ground below it, and the earth below that. So just tap into your connection right now with the earth below your feet in your body. What does it feel like this morning to be on the earth? Even though you might be separated by distance from it, what is your experience this morning being on the earth? Just notice how it feels in your body to imagine that connection. And some of you may actually feel that connection. And so, whether or not you actually feel something, I want you just to imagine that there is this beautiful, radiant energy coming up from the earth through your feet, moving all the way up your shins, your knees, your thighs, into your belly, just warming your belly, up into your chest, your arms, your fingers, into your neck, and then all the way up to the crown of your head. And just let that settle in you for this moment. Noticing what your body on the inside feels like. Noticing the places that might be constricted and tight, might be resistant. And then those parts of you that are open and soft, feeling gentle, maybe excited, maybe just flowing with what's natural, no effort. Yeah, see if you can find that part in you that's effortless right now. Awesome. So now sending your eyes out as far as they can see to one point off in the distance on the horizon somewhere. And then focusing with all your intention onto that one point. And then expanding softly out further and further and further in all directions. Imagining that you could even see behind yourself. And just let your eyes soften, taking it all in. And as you're receiving all of it with your eyes, imagine that there is that connection going from the earth into your body and then out into the rest of the world. So you are a part of the earth, you're part of the world in this moment. Just notice what it's like to be connected right now. And with this softened presence, go ahead and take a nice deep breath in and smell the air this morning. Really fill your lungs up and then let it go. And do that one more time. Just letting it go. And just let your breath go back to a natural, easy rhythm. In this moment, take in the sounds. So start to invite the sounds in. Notice the sounds that are immediately calling your attention. And that those that you might not have noticed at first, but the longer you sit, they start to come into your awareness. And notice how far or how near they are, what texture they may have. Do they have a rhythm, or are they just momentary? And now do your best to send your hearing out as far as you can, as far as you sent your eyes. So if you were looking really far off in the distance, imagine that you could hear that far away. What might you be able to hear over there? And just try it out. So I'm going to start with this meditation by Thomas More. That's what he calls them anyway. They're kind of like his ponderings and thoughts. And you're welcome to play along or just do whatever you're called to do. If something's catching your attention, you're welcome to drift into that, or you're welcome to stay with this. So I'll read the meditation and then I'll have a little assignment, a little activity for us to play with. Gosh, Jackie, you look so warm right now. Well, cold, but nice in the sun. All right, he says, it is said that Michelangelo could see the sculpture in a raw piece of marble. Could it also be a talent to see the marble out of which our things are born? We tend to look at all things of life, from objects to people, as fixed, separate, one-dimensional givens. Could we also perceive the stories in which they live, the spirit that gives them context, the music made by their movements, the aromas emanating from their presence, the void displaced by their forms, the secrets hidden by their revelation? What kind of senses would be required for such a perception, or for such perception? And the piece that I am going to invite us to focus on today was this question he had. Could we also perceive the stories in which they live, the spirit that gives them context? So, like he said, you know, Michelangelo could look at a stone and already see the sculpture within it. But Thomas is just suggesting, like, what if we sort of flip that around? What if we see the sculpture already, or the bird, the tree, the road, whatever it is, and then imagine where that had come from? What was it that birthed that thing into being? And so, with that question or that thought in mind, I'd like you to start first by finding something on the landscape. We will go to sounds, so maybe hold that one off for just now. We'll do this a couple different times with different variations of it. So we'll start first with something that is living, something that you can see in your view right now, whether soften gaze or focus gaze, it doesn't really matter. You can focus on a bird, tree, plant, anything that you can see that's living, and just asking that question. All right, and I'll let us sit here for probably 4 or so minutes. Okay, lovely. So you're welcome to stay with something that you're seeing, or try on now listening for a sound out there and asking that question of what was it that gave rise to that sound? What was it that birthed that sound? Was the originator of that sound? And just let yourself stay with that sound as long as it is around. And if you need to shift to another sound, if that one passes, that's fine. And we'll stay here for a couple minutes. Okay, and now our next focus is to look for something that some may consider inanimate. So something that technically is not living, but some people believe that all things have life force. So it could be a piece of wood, it could be a wire, it could be a stone, whatever you think of that might fall into that category. Something you could even just say man-made. How about that? Something man-made or man touched, man altered, person altered. There we go. That's a better way to say it. Person altered. All right, and we'll see here for a little while. And just a reminder, the question was, what was it that birthed this thing? Where did it come from? What was the shape that it originated from? Any version of that. Okay, and then the very last one for just the next couple of minutes before we close, I'll invite you to turn the question toward yourself. So, asking that question of what was it that birthed this one? What was it that gave this one shape? And so you can turn that toward yourself and ask that of yourself as we sit here for our last couple of minutes. All right. So just go ahead and offer whatever form of gratitude you prefer to do to those ones that you connected with this morning and even to yourself. And just take a moment to do that in your own way. All right. So I'd love to hear some stories from this morning. Anyone who has anything they want to share about if they played along with these questions. And for those of you who have your monitors off, you can keep them off, but now's a great time to turn them on so we can see your faces if you want to share. Again, feel free to keep them off if that's necessary or if you'd like to. No pressure there. Yeah, so just if you'd like to share, you can just go ahead and raise your hand. All right, Della, go for it.
All right. Well, this morning I saw two acorn woodpeckers, and they were together, which is interesting. And I'm wondering if they're getting ready to pair off for the
Oh.
breeding season.
Ooh. That's so you don't usually see them together?
Sometimes, but a lot of times I just see one at a time, or
Okay.
I see a larger flock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But when I start to see them two by two, then I wonder if it's time to pair off.
Ooh, that's a
And
neat.
I wonder where their nest is. Where would they have a nest around here?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I feel like that's like a little whisper of spring, you know?
Yes.
A little whisper. It's like, ooh.
Yeah. Which comes early in this part of California.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
It
I'm
gets,
also in California and I'm by the American River, and we see a lot of activity, and I'm hearing a lot of activity. What I'm guessing are territorial calls,
Yeah.
because they'll sit in one place and then make this announcement. And of course, I'm looking to see if there's hawks or crows or somebody that's causing an alarm, but it isn't that. They're just singing, letting everybody know, here's my place.
Jackie, is it more, would you say the sounds you're hearing when you describe it as territorial, or would you describe it more as song or more as a call, like an alarm?
Yeah, more of a song,
Song,
a
yeah.
repetitive, lovely lilt of a
Mm,
song. But also at the river in the middle of the day, we'll see a lot of um, movement. So we'll sit on this branch and we'll sing for a while. Then we're going to go over to that tree and sing for a little while. Then we're going to go up high and sing for a little while. So different birds are kind of scoping out their territory. It is what it appears to me while I'm walking.
yeah, interesting, interesting. Ooh, spring's coming. Sweet. Anyone else have a story that they want to share? Anything related to the meditation from this morning? Sort of what arose for you, whether it's bird related or not, it's okay. Doesn't have to be related to birds. Yeah, go ahead, Julia.
This reminded me of in education, a writing prompt
Hmm.
where, say, it might be look at a piece of art and you see the scene there, and then they write what happened just before that,
Ah.
which is fun. So yeah, I have feeders right outside my window, and the house finches were there, or actually purple finch, I think, were there. They were there, and then the beautiful cardinal comes, the male cardinal, and just chases them away. And so, well, you bully. So I was thinking about the story of the house finches, and how they had to just get out of the way. But then I thought, no, they'll still get time at the feeder.
Mhm,
They just have to be a little smarter.
mhm.
And so, anyway, I had kind of a story relating to that, and it was relating to my life where I have to be on a committee with a bully, but you have to kind of wait, bide your time, and then, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's so fascinating that you bring that up, I think, because whether it's related to you or to the birds, the idea, what he's bringing up in the meditation of like what shapes us, so the house finch isn't as big as the cardinal, maybe not as tough and not as much of a, like you said, bully, maybe not as assertive or aggressive even. And so it has to learn to be to get what it needs in a different way. And that's just interesting to think that like even the cardinal can shape the house finch. They're two separate birds. They have different virtually different habitats, even though they come together at times, but that one can shape the other one is interesting. And the same with this person on the committee you're on, shaping in part who you are, and then maybe vice versa. It's like, how do the house finch shape the cardinal, and then how do you potentially shape this person who might be a bit more of a bully? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Julia. Thanks. So rich. Cool. Anyone else? Yeah, Suzanne.
Hi, good morning. I'm in this narrow mountain river canyon, and so the first meditation about the uh, living things. I was thinking this canyon was formed by uplift and erosion geologically, and now it's filled with trees. So these living things have filled the void. And now the trees are filled with birds, especially around me right now. And so the birds are further filling the void of this mountain canyon with life. So this geologic thing happens and then life moves into that spot. And that was totally cool. And then with the sound meditation, I clued into the juncos, little sweet little cheeps. Oh my gosh, the juncos have the sweetest language, don't they?
They're very vocal. Yeah.
And there's just the sweetest little softest, gentlest cheep, 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 you know, not aggressive. Like I think I have every Stellar's Jay on the planet here right now. And, you know, they're so obnoxious. And here, these little junco cheeps are so sweet.
Yeah.
And then the where did I come from was a kind of in a literal physical sense. That was a very uncomfortable question to answer. So I just dismissed it and went spiritual and metaphorical. And, and I just, thought of stardust. And so, of course, with David Crosby dying this week, of course, Woodstock is in my mind. So, we're all stardust, and so are the birds, and so are the trees. Here we are. And there's one last thing. We had this epic storm last week. I got 5 feet of snow in 4 days. And it was interesting in a lot of ways, but to watch what errant birds just sort of like blew in and took refuge here.
Yeah.
And so I have a woodhouse jay that blew in all bedraggled. And I've never seen one up here. I'm at 7,300 feet, and my friends down in the Pinon junipers have them a lot. This is the first woodhouse I've had up here, and he seems to be hanging out, just one. Do you have any perspective on that?
That's interesting. I'm just trying to think, because where I used to live in Colorado, I would go between Durango and Mancos, and Durango's at 6,500 and Mancos is at 7,500. And I'm just trying to remember if I ever saw the scrub jays up at the Woodhouse scrub jays, Roadhouse jays now. If I ever saw them up in Mancos, and I can't, for sure there was Stellar's jays and Pinion jays and whatnot, but I don't remember if I ever saw the scrubs there or not. Yeah, and in terms of, you had the snowstorm, so it could have just been like an errant weird kind of wind current sort of thing, and maybe it was on its way somewhere and then just had to take shelter wherever it was. If it really is that rare, I'd be curious to if you jump on eBird to see what other sightings people had noticed, like if what other sightings came up that week, and then see historically what other folks see on a regular basis, because maybe it could be like a habitat thing too, like maybe your particular home or the places you spend time maybe aren't where they would want to be at your elevation, but maybe other habitats might provide more for them. And yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the scrubs to if we had them in Maine. Is anyone else up at high elevation or higher, like around 7,500, have scrubs at all there? No. Okay.
He's getting along really well with the Stellars, or at least they have a detente. They're not fighting each other, but he's on his own, and he's holding his own at the feeders with the Stellar's jays.
They do, actually, I'll share a quick story. I'm always curious about sort of like what Julia was saying earlier about sort of who's tougher, especially at the feeders, because the feeders are just such an anomaly. It's not like a natural thing for birds really to be drawn to the same source of food. Of course they can, but it's just different, And so I'm always just kind of curious, like sort of the king of the mountain, like who's gonna end up on top. And I was watching this flock of Stellar's jays and a group of scrub jays one day, and I was just curious, like who is gonna be tougher or stronger. And I don't think there were many scrubs. I think there were just a couple, and there's more Stellars. But the scrubs kicked the Stellars off the feeder. They were just like, And I thought that was interesting. I thought somehow the Stellars always seem kind of like that bully idea. They just seem a bit tougher to me. And I thought for sure it would have been the Stellars that would have sort of won the mountain, but they didn't. It was the scrub. So there's something in the scrub jay that's, I don't know, maybe it's more scrappy or something, but yeah, I had a similar experience where they're fine,
And my American Dipper showed up during the meditation. I know you opened by talking about them. I hadn't seen it in a long time with all this snow, and he showed up just a few minutes ago right along the river. I'm so stoked.
Awesome. That's so great. I love that we can call them in. That's so beautiful. Yeah, that's rad. Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for all that beautiful share. Anyone else I want to share what came for them during the sit this morning? What arose? Um, Go ahead. Yeah, Jackie, go for it.
So I'd like to share that looking at a living thing. So for me, we're the trees.
Hmm.
And your meditation spoke of their spirit. So that's more of an indigenous way of thinking, which I've been participating in a kind of a workshop with Greg Saris, who's an indigenous leader here in California. And once a month, he and an environmentalist called Obi Kaufman get together and talk about California and how we can move forward and improve our environmental feelings. But I'm looking at this tree, and as you pointed out, it has a spirit, it's living, and it has provided for these 50, 80 years, whatever, so many gifts to the living world, and also its roots providing so many gifts to that living world in the soil. But we have had storm after storm after storm, and it's so heartbreaking to see these trees fall over. But again, they will provide a home as they lie there and return to the soil, and new trees will grow. So I have to think that this is just the cycle, and think of it in terms of all the gifts I've gotten from it and how I can be, as you pointed out, grateful for the gifts.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really rich, Jackie. Thank you for bringing up that perspective. Knowing the earth in that other way, and yeah, just to see the cycles. And sometimes I have a giant maple tree that I get to. It's probably one of the biggest ones I think in my town, one of the oldest ones I should say, um, and I think I would be so sad if it were to fall, but at the same time, I mean, granted, where it is in particular in town, they would just probably have to clean it up, unfortunately. But if it were in the forest, oh man, like what an amazing amount of life supporting it would do, once it fell. And yeah. Sometimes Mother Nature has bigger ideas than we're able to think, Yeah, farther reaching ones anyway. I have a book I'm going to recommend at the end of this. We'll let other people share and stuff, but I just finished it this weekend, and it was very powerful, related to California and whatnot. So I thought, I don't know, I'll just share it. You can dive into it if you want to or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share that? Yeah, Della, go ahead.
I wanted to say to Jackie, I really hear you. I live here in the Del Monte Forest area of Pebble Beach, and we've had a lot of trees down as well. And this morning during the meditation, I was looking out at these very tall pine trees that are, 100 years old or more, and they're at the end of their lives. And so a storm just sort of rearranges the forest. It causes a lot of branches to fall, a lot of trees to fall. And it's really messy. The forest is really messy. And that used to bother me a lot. But now I kind of see it as this is the home for the birds and the wildlife, and they wouldn't want it all cleaned up. So, we just kind of roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Stella. I see here it looks like yeah, it is really good to consider that. It looks like, Julia, do you want to share a little bit about this poem that you're recommending? It sounds very tied into this conversation.
Yes, I love this. In fact, I probably want it read at my memorial service. It is This Ground Made of Trees. It's by Allison Hawthorne Deming. And it's included in a collection that you might be interested in. It's called Wild Branch. And it is an anthology of nature, environmental, and place-based writing. And I don't know, the poem is not a short one, so I wouldn't, I mean, if you want me to read it, I will, but it's not, just one little verse, so.
Yeah, yeah.
But it talks about, the giants have fallen, oh, well, and it mentions all these moss and the nuthatch and all these different characters that are in that, um, and ending, a few more words of praise for this ground made of trees, where everything is an invitation to lie down in the moss for good and become finally really useful, to pull close the drapery of lichen and let the night birds call me home. That's the ending of it. And
To finally become really useful. I love that. Yeah. Right, because there's this idea that it's useful when it's standing and doing all that it's doing, and or we are doing. Hmm.
Mhm.
Kristi, would you just include that Wild Branch reference in your follow-up email?
Sure. Yeah, I've just copied it, and so I will. Yeah, I'll send it along, of course. Yeah.
Uh, I got it because one of the editors, Florence Caplow, was a theme speaker for a women's convocation that we had. Florence Caplow and Susan Cohen. It's Wild Branches, I think, an annual writing workshop about nature. And this is a collection of some of the best of things. Well, you see, I have tabs all through it.
Thanks, Julia. I love knowing about that book. I had not heard about it before. That's awesome. Cool. We have time for one or two more if anyone else wants to share what came up for them. Or while you're thinking, I know for me, I have is it hydrangea? Yeah, I think it's a hydrangea right out my window. And with a moment ago, or when we were sitting, the snowflakes were really big, those big, beautiful snowflakes that come down. And it's almost like I was going to focus on the hydrangea, asking that question of, where it came from and what shaped it and whatnot. And then the snow kept falling, and I was like, oh, what about the snow? And then I just watched how they were like playing with each other. It was like there was just this sort of joy, like every flake that would fall, because they were big and heavy, would sort of move the hydrangea where it still has its dried flower head up, and it would just drop a little bit and the snow would fall. It was just like this playfulness between the two of them. And I just always love for that opportunity to reflect on the relationship with that the world has with each other, and that it's easy to disregard or just to not think about, and I was just so grateful for that moment to watch this play between snow and hydrangea flower. Yeah. Anybody else? All right, let me grab that book. It's right over here. It's a slightly different take on things, but I just got it from the library. It's called Bravehearted, and it's the women of the American West. And honestly, I think it's a little bit more about just the story of the American West. I think there's definitely women woven into the story, but it also it's probably one of the more poignant stories of moving west and sort of what happened to the native folks and all folks, as the movement west happened. And I don't think I felt so moved by the story of that happening in a long time, and she does a beautiful job of helping to paint the picture from like the very first woman, that went across, and taking 6 months to like, what happens. It just sort of like progresses through the next couple years, 10 years, 20 years and whatnot. And you get to meet different women along the way. And but also, kind of in the background is the story of the land and the people that were there for, before. And so yeah, it's a rich, rich story. So if anyone, and I can also add this one to the email as well, but it's called Bravehearted. Anywho, well, if no one else has anything else, say it's a beautiful, beautiful ending, time to end on that story of the poem that Julia shared. And yeah, I hope everyone has a really lovely week, whatever your world provides for you, whether it's snow or wind or rain or sunshine, however that may be, and new bird songs. So keep your ears. I'll make that as like a nice adventure kind of challenge for you, invitation in the next week to get up right around dawn, a little bit before dawn, and not dawn, sorry, a little bit before sunrise. This time of year, you don't have to get up quite so early, but just a little bit before sunrise, and just stand out your door just for 10 minutes, 5 minutes even, and just listen and see if you hear any songs, see who's singing right now. Whether you know them or not doesn't matter, but just to listen to the songs that might be present in your neck of the woods. All right, everybody, have a beautiful rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.